Hey guys, I'm going to talk about the perspective tool, perspective grid tool. It's a feature that's been available since Illustrator version CS5. To access it, you click on the actual tool right here. Just click once. And you can even activate it with keyboard shortcuts by holding down the Shift, Command, and the letter I on your keyboard. So that kind of, you can toggle it on and off. All right. So there are three different kinds of perspective viewpoints. By default, you get what is called the 2-point view, which is you get the left side and the right side, and you can also do it on the bottom, which is a 2-point view. To access all the different viewpoints, you go simply into the view menu, scroll down to where it says perspective grid. Now, right now we are in the 2-point perspective view. But if I want to go into the 1-point, and this is a little ridiculous, you get to go through all this other sub-menus. The 1-point view shows in this direction, kind of like just a simple vanishing point with one wall. The 3rd-point view, number of view, perspective grid, 3-point view, 3P normal view, gives you a bird's eye view type of format that you can draw in. This is really popular for a lot of pixel artists because they get to draw in this form of perspective, kind of like bird's eye view, city looking down. We're just going to go ahead and use for this demo, we're going to use the 2-point view perspective and go back this way. All right, so let's talk about what these guys mean here. So this little diamond here on the far end corner, that I click on that, it positions my grid anywhere on the page that I like. So I can reposition this anywhere I want. Hold on, spacebar to move over. The top diamond here will change the size of my grid. Now the grid is usually just a guide. Does not necessarily mean that it's going to show when you print this file or whatever you draw. This is just a simple guide for you to follow. Now this one here with a circle dot on the far edge will actually change your dimensions and the width of the perspective. It distorts it more depending on the size of how you want things to vanish in that perspective. And these guys here will change the size of the actual grid system. It will change it just closes them in tighter depending on how you want the angle of the vanishing points to be. And this one down here will change, will change your vanishing point distance. If you want it to be more of a horizontal plane or more of a vertical plane, vanishing point distance, well, that's how you can modify your grids to vanish these items into a perspective form, okay? You can also, so whatever you changed with your grid, you can actually save those presets for future use by simply going into the view menu, perspective grid, and save grid presets, and then you can just modify this. You can change, you can also change your color settings and give it a name, and it'll call back down in that same menu system. So I'm not going to save this one. I'm just going to hit cancel because I don't want to save it. All right, so right now I am in the right grid, which is the orange side. If I click on the left grid, which is the blue side, that means that I have that highlighted and selected. That means that any time of artwork that I interact with it will start drawing in that perspective. Down on the bottom, we'll start drawing out from this part right here, this green part perspective. And you can toggle these different regions with keyboard shortcuts. The number 1 is the blue region, number 2 is the green, and number 3 gives you the orange region. So again, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. As you can see, you can start activating each grid. Now, inside the tool, let's go ahead and tear this off. This is the selection tool. So you interact with the artwork by using the selection tool here, and it will automatically draw your item in its perspective. So let's say that I have the selection tool, and if I have this grid tool here selected, then I just deselect, draw a rectangle. So let's just give this a color. So I'm just going to give I'm going to say an orange, no stroke, and I'm going to create a new layer here. I'm in my grid layer. So if I start drawing something, and notice that I am now in the orange perspective, it's going to start drawing my object in that perspective. So I'm going to line this up and scale it. And as I scale it, it scales it down into that perspective. I'm going to use this selection tool If I scale it, there we go. Notice that it starts drawing my artwork in that form. And I gotta have, in order to scale it, I use the selection tool for the perspective selection tool. And it starts drawing my shape in that format. So I grab my tool, draw in perspective, give it a color. Now, if I want to go on the blue side, that's the keyboard shortcut number 1, or just mouse over to the widget, this is called the widget, and highlight the blue area. And let's say that I want a darker color, and I'm going to draw another object in perspective here. So there. So I got two sides of a building. Okay. Before I started the video, I drew a window element here. So I'm going to highlight that. And notice that I'm moving it around because it's already drawn before I started activating the grid tool. It's not putting anything in perspective. And let's say that I want this on the orange region here. So I grab my selection tool and I'm going to activate the orange region. And once I select that artwork, that orange artwork, and I don't want to select the background color, so I'm going to lock that down. But once I start selecting that window with the perspective selection tool, as soon as I start interacting with it, now I have the orange region selected, it is going to immediately put that artwork in perspective. And I can just hold the Option key here and start copying it down and hit Command D to repeat my process. And I can select all 3 windows and draw another one if I want, scale it down. If I want my window to go into the other area, let's say where the red building or the blue region, I just hit the keyboard shortcut number 1 and notice that I swapped over, and I can just use the grid here and continue drawing my object in that fashion. I'm going to Option copy that over, number 3 for the orange, and put it back where it belongs. So it looks like I didn't quite copy exactly. And and it's beautiful effect. It can create so many awesome things. You can even work with text. So let's say I grab my type tool and I type building due to lack of creativity while I'm running a video. And I'm going to, let's just make this a little bit bolder in color. Let's just make it a bold typeset. And I want it above the orange side. So I'm going to interact it with the tool. I want the orange grid. And check this out, guys. As soon as I start interacting it with the tool, it's going to take my text and convert it to outlines immediately. But it'll be in perspective. So if I view this in outline view mode, notice that my text is now immediately converted to outlines. In order for it to be converted in perspective, any form of live text will automatically convert it to outlines. Okay? So that is the perspective grid tool. You can do so many really cool effects with it. The difference between that and the free transform tool is, let's say that I have an object here. And I'm going to, let me just stop interacting it in perspective. Well, anyways, that's fine. So if I use the free transform tool here, I can, yes, definitely, I can use and distort these objects also in perspective. The only difference is between the two items, the two features in Illustrator. Let's say that I want to go back and edit more elements and try to keep it in the same perspective. With the transform tool, if I use the transform tool, I won't get it, it won't be as accurate. It won't be, some of the perspective could be off. But with the perspective tool, I know that no matter what I use or draw with the perspective grid tool, it will always, always, always be in the exact same perspective. Giving all the rules with the vanishing points and whatnot. So if I do this on 3, the bottom, like 3, 2, 1, it keeps it all in perspective. Love, love, love the perspective grid tool. Now, to deactivate this, you can do it 2 ways. Again, the keyboard shortcut, Shift Command I, or you can, with the selection tool, you can click inside here to deactivate the regions and just exit out of the widget and it hides all the grid. So this is what your artwork should look like after you've used the perspective grid tool. Of course, there can be so many other edits. Dimensionally, this artwork here looks a little bit flat because of the way I drew these windows, because I did it really quick. But yeah, you understand, you get what I'm saying with that. So that looks really cool. Play around with some of those settings, guys. I know that this is a really wonderful effect. All right, so let's get rid of that. The next thing I want to talk about is some 3D effects that you can do in Illustrator. So I'm going to draw, let's just do an elliptical. I'm going to create a new layer, draw an elliptical, and I'm going to give it a color, just green. Under the effects menu up on top here, you have the 3D options. Let's do the extrude and bevel real quick. I'm going to go through one of these ones, but let me cancel that. Let's go ahead and use the extrude and bevel. So here you have the 3D options of the dialog box. Always make sure that your preview is checked. You can click on more options. Now, right now I am extruding this elliptical, this circle that I had. And right now I have a depth of 50 points, but I can change that to be, much larger. This will give me the rotation of my preview of my object. So if I wanted to go in this direction here, sometimes when it gives it a hard time to render, you'll get these little lines. See those rendering lines right there? This controls the shading of the object. Right now, plastic shading is the default setting. You can play around with some of that. You can even tell it to preserve spot colors if you have any Pantone colors on there. You can tell it to shade between different shades. You can do the step blendings. You can do the percentage of the highlights, ambiance lighting. So if I want this to have a highlight, mostly shading in this direction, that gives you the preview of how that effect is going to work. Depending on how you decide to rotate your object, notice that I'm having a hard time here with the preview, so it gives me these line effects. One thing about the 3D effects in Adobe Illustrator, it does take up a lot of memory, so please be careful when you're deciding to use this feature. Save and save often. I've had students that had their artwork crash on them a lot, so keep that in mind when you are decided to apply some of these effects into your own artwork. So when I hit OK to apply, and here is my extruded sphere effect. Now, when I view this in outline view mode, all I get is just the original object. So go back into preview mode. If I want to have access to these vector objects, well, you know that you can just simply go to the objects menu and hit expand appearance. Not just expand, but expand appearance, because you applied an effect. Expand appearance. Now it breaks it apart. So when you view this in outline view mode, as you can see, even any kind of gradients that was applied to this with the 3D effects, it breaks everything into its own paths. So as you can see that. And then with the direct selection tool, you can grab these paths and see that. See that? Every single one of these, it's its own unique path. And it breaks it up. So it literally breaks it apart. It breaks the appearance apart. So I'm going to edit undo that so you can see it's no longer broken apart. So let's just put that aside for a second. That's just one of the things that you can do with the 3D effects. Now, the next one I want to show you is Revolve. And for that, I downloaded an image from the Google. It's just a soda bottle. So I want to create a soda bottle in three-dimensional form. But I do not want to take the time and just outline all of this with the pen tool. So all I'm going to do, and this is a really cool trick, guys, I'm just going to create a stroke. I got a green bottle, so conveniently I chose the color green. And the only thing I need to draw is just one side. So I'm going to pick the left side. So I'm going to go from here to here, and I'm going to do this really quick again. And I'm just going to draw, hold on, I need to zoom in here. Draw the little bottle cap piece there. Now I'm going to zoom out. And I'm going to say here, I'm going to create a curve there. And I'm going to try and do this, of course, with the least amount of points possible. Hold on, I think I have snap turned on. No, I don't. Let's just get in there a little cooler, sweeter. So you can see it's starting to snap over. and draw these little areas right here. And I'm going to stop it right about there. That's it. That is, and I'm going to close that anchor handle. So this is what I have. This is all I need. This I'm just going to put it aside so we can compare the difference between the two. So now with just drawing one side, I'm going to create a shape like this using the 3D effects tool. By going to View, Effects, 3D, and this time I'm going to choose Revolve. So what it's going to do is going to revolve around. Now that's not quite the effect that I want, obviously, because I have the left edge here selected. So let's change that to the right edge. And it looks a little weird. So let's change the offset. Let's say the offset to be 40 points. Oh, that's a big jug. Let's try 20 points. That's still a little small, but the cap looks good. All right, so let's try 15 points. All right, I can live with that. See, that's very close to the original. So I'm gonna stay with that. And yeah, so that's all it does. It literally redrew my shape. It completed, it literally revolved it 360 degrees. And all I had to do, guys, was just draw one side of it. Let's just get rid of that. So that's one effect. And then when I view it, of course, in outline view mode, all I have is that path that I started with. Now, there's another really cool feature in the 3D effects is called image map, that you can map an image to your bottle. And by doing so, you need to use symbols. So let's bring Windows and let's check symbols here. Oh, mine is way over there. So you have to convert these things into symbols. So let's say that I want to create a label that goes right around in here and literally wraps around the bottle that I just created. So I'm going to grab my rectangle tool and I'm going to draw a rectangle that I think is going to fit that area. And I'm going to color it, let's just say blue for now. And I'm going to give it text, and my text is going to say Mike Sodak, because you know me, I'm creative. There we go. I'm going to enlarge it a little bit, and I'm going to put it right here. This is my soda label. Now, in order for me to create what is called an image map, I have to convert the item that I want to interact with my 3D effects into a symbol. So I'm going to drag it and drop it, and now I'm going to call this label. And there it is, there's my symbol. So now I just don't need this anymore, really. So I can just put it aside for now. Now, guys, if you're going to edit a 3D effects that you have already generated, do not go back into the effects 3D menu and so on. It will try to reapply the effect. Instead, you have to go into the Windows menu and select Appearances. Appearances will show all of the effects that you've applied to an object in the order that it was applied to. So notice that I have the effects here, the appearances here. I have the object selected. Here is the 3D revolve effect that I just created. So what I'm going to do, I want to edit this because I want to add my label that I just created. So I'm going to click on this. And now notice that my 3D revolve options open up. And I want to do what is called an image map, which is mapping the artwork. So now I want to click on this button here to say Map Art, and it's going to take me to a different dialog box. And now it's going to circle. I have 16 regions that's identified in my bottle here that I created. I need to figure out which region do I need to select in order to apply my symbols that I created. And notice that here's the Symbols tab up there. This is the label that I made. Okay, so I need to first figure out, obviously the first one, it's recognizing it as the top of the cap right over here. See, notice that it's highlighted here. The second one, it's saying, do I want to image map that area? Obviously, this is not where I want it. And then here's the third. The fourth is located, it's recognizing the cone piece. That's not where I want it. So number 5. Okay, so number 6 is a strong possibility, but let's find out all the other regions. So far, I think it might be number 6. And 7, obviously not. 8 is the bottom piece. 1, and back to 1. Oh, wait, I went all the way 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So it's got to be 6. So let's just go ahead and type in 6 and hit enter. Whoop. Try back again. 6 area. So that could be it. So now that I have 6 of 16, I'm going to click on this, select my label, and it doesn't seem to appear, so I don't think it's 6. So let's get rid of that. Maybe it is number 10. Let's apply it on there. There it is. It was region number 10, not 6. And you want to hit on the scale to fit artwork and hit OK to apply. And now you rotate your art. So you can see your soda now has a label that was done using mapping and artwork. Hit OK to apply and get rid of the appearances. You're done editing that.